Hello, and welcome to the CTO Perspective, where we discuss unique perspectives about the most current issues in IT operations with the most current people in IT operations. And here today with us is Scott Stradley, Field CTO at BigPanda. Hey, Scott.
Hey, you are.
So today we'll be talking about hybrid cloud migration, that process of getting to a state where the IT stack that's on-premise interacts and communicates with that part of your IT stack that is hosted on a public cloud provider or several public cloud providers. Would it be fair to say that no matter how your organization views this migration or implements it, the challenges it faces are pretty common across the board?
Yeah, the challenges are pretty similar. I mean, albeit a little bit nuanced, but the majority of it's pretty similar. I mean, you're going to run into standardization of tools. Some would call it going through a tool rationalization effort. They're going to run into operational spend in some way, shape, or form, whatever that is, especially through the migration process. As well as, they're going to be chased with or challenged with, building and supporting, right? Like it changes their entire operating model. So these are common challenges regardless of which approach you take.
Okay, so if the challenges are common, would there be best practices, so to speak, to do that migration in the best possible way?
Yeah, there's a lot of different methods out there. Some vendors like OpenShift and others will actually try to employ a certain model to leverage their systems. But from a process, a people, as well as technology perspective, it's pretty similar. The terminology and names may differ, but the process is pretty similar.
And then what would that be?
So there's typically 4 steps that I would determine, right? There's step 1 would be more or less inventory. Step 2 would be, I would call it more insurance or protection. Step 3 would be building and modernization. And step 4 would be an evaluation. How well did you do?
Okay, so let's go through these steps one at a time. So inventory, that's it's sort of the name implies what that means, but maybe a few details about that.
Sure. So inventory is exactly what the name mentions, right? So when you're moving from an on-prem architecture to more of a cloud or a hybrid cloud, you need to know what you're actually moving, as well as what you currently have and what you intend to have. So whether that's tools and applications, whether it's your entire IT organization from people and processes as well. So you're looking at things such as peripherals. How are they going to be affected? Then you're going to look at things such as IT equipment, servers, networking equipment. What of that is going to be migrated over, and what do you need to maintain to keep your operation efficient in even a hybrid on-prem world? Lastly, you've got applications and tools, right? What applications are you intending to migrate over versus maintain in your existing operating model in existing on-prem systems? You've got networking, you have database, all these leverage to operate your applications and business services, right? So,
Right, but it's not. But the process is not just making the inventory and checklist, right? It's sort of also deciding as you make that checklist what it is that you want to keep, maybe improve, or you're doing that for better planning.
absolutely. There's a planning element to it. It's not just taking a complete inventory, which some would call putting into a CMDB, right? It's not a matter of that. You're actually prioritizing and determining what is best for your business through that inventory process.
Okay, and then the second step you said was protection insurance. That's I haven't heard that term in relation to migration. What does that mean, protection insurance?
Yeah, I look at it, and a lot of organizations look at it as how can they protect the investments that they're making, right? Whether that's in the new operating models of people, because you have to hire new people who understand the hybrid cloud or the cloud architectures that you're employing. The processes, you're changing your processes to accommodate this. You're gaining and losing some control as a result. So what does that look like? And then the technology, right? So what is the technology that you're actually going to need to purchase or furthermore migrate and leverage in a different manner? All of this involves spend, right? From either an operation or a capital expenditure perspective. Therefore, organizations want to hedge and understand what is the upside and downside to this. So that's where insurance comes in, right? So basically you're trying to minimize your risk, right? And you're future proofing your investment such that it's going to scale and grow as you grow your organization.
All right. I've heard people calling it rationalization. Would that be the same thing as well? Tool rationalization?
Some use rationalization, insurance. Yeah, again, terminology.
Insurance seems like something you would say just to make sure that everybody who's spending the money feels safe that we're doing this process, right? So the idea is making sense of the move and also protecting your investments and doing it the right way, right? So that a different term for a different maybe persona in the organization.
Exactly. Yeah, you're going to have, higher level executives who are controlling budgets. They're going to gravitate towards insurance, right? They want to protect the investment. If you're looking at practitioners and folks who are actually migrating and managing the moves and coordinating and planning, they're going to look at it more as a rationalization type effort. Absolutely.
And what would be the outcome of that? What we have after we do this inventory and rationalization or protection, what's the outcome? What do we have in hand?
Essentially, you have a plan, right? So now you have a plan that you can start executing upon, right? Which moves us into step 3, which is the actual build and migration, right? Where you're actually moving applications, you're moving business services, you're moving different types and parts of your infrastructure into the hybrid cloud, whether it's private or public, whatever the case may be. So as long as your planning is done up front from a step 1 and step 2 perspective, the actual build and migration should go pretty seamless.
Okay, so they're hand in hand. So maybe I'll go and connect these two together. In your experience, have you seen what are the guidelines or some of the guidelines companies follow when they plan and execute? What do they pay attention to? Is there anything common that we can discuss?
It's usually time spent and the people that are executing and what tools they're using. So they continually go through that evolution in the cycle of that, what I would say, your rationalization effort, right? So they're determining as they're migrating and building, is it following the plan, number 1? Is it yielding the results that they're looking for, number 2? So most take kind of a crawl, walk, run approach to it versus a big bang. So you're not moving everything all at once. You're moving things step by step, more along the lines of different services found within the application versus migrating the entire application. So that would be one method that seems to most folks gravitate to more so because it, again, minimizes the risk as well as provides you higher gains.
So you're planning it in such a way that you move only part of it to begin with, see how that works, and then do the rest. And you're building it in such a way so it layers one on top of the other. So you are migrating the things that allow the other on-premise stuff to keep on working and then adding on as you move ahead.
Correct. And what it does is it reinforces your planning process. So you identify things continuously, what is working and what is not, so you can pivot the model and pivot the planning towards, maximum benefit.
So what would and then there's the fourth step that you said, which is obviously looking at what you did and seeing if it succeeded. What would be, how do you measure that?
Measurements are different across the board, quite honestly. It's you move into a more of a support and innovation perspective. So this is where IT ops really comes into play, and you start measuring things such as availability and performance. You start measuring how well is your IT operation team performing in that new model. You start looking at MTT metrics, whether it's time to detect, time to resolve, and things like that. You start looking at efficiencies. Is my team more efficient both from a build and an execution and a support perspective with the new model? And then you continually evolve that as you're going forward. So these are all different types of business metrics, not just pure IT and technical metrics that people are looking at.
Okay. And one tip that you maybe have for people doing that, or for organizations doing that, having seen so many doing it, one really short tip for life.
I would say identify the best tools that can help you automate as much of this as possible. Automation's a big buzzword right now in the industry, but it's practical and it's pragmatic. So as much as you can do to automate, to streamline your processes, it's going to lower your cost, it's going to gain efficiency, and it's going to allow your organization to trust that move more so.
Okay, this may be a good time to touch upon that. So BigPanda, where can it help you in that migration process? I'm assuming, what steps out of the 4 can it help with?
Yeah, it can help in the majority of, I would say, all the steps, but the primary ones I would say are step 2, where you're going through actually step 1 even. When you look at inventory, identifying what you have, right? So what BigPanda is able to do is integrate all the various sources of data within your organization. So it gives you a view of what you have within your environment. Then you move into step two, where BigPanda really plays a role, is more the rationalization and insurance aspect of it. So what it's able to do is it's able, from an event management and automation perspective, once you bring all the tools and practices into place, whether it's your legacy practices and legacy tools, as you migrate, it's plug and play. So it allows you to integrate additional tools as you migrate to the cloud and gives you a view of what is working, what's not, and where you have overlap. So many organizations that we work with, they go through a tool rationalization, whether it's replacing an existing monitoring or observability tool to identify, is it working as efficiently as my previous tool? And there's overlap in that migration process, enabling them to see what more are they gaining, whether it's something's firing alerts faster than the previous tool, whether it's getting additional data that you can leverage, and so forth. And then lastly, the actual support and innovation. So continuing the cycle, step 4, BigPanda is enabling you more visibility and control throughout that process.
So that visibility actually across the board helps you to plan better, because you're actually getting everything into one place, and it's finally getting maybe sort of like a big picture of what you have. And it also helps you make sense of what's going well and what's going not, where you have like overlaps, because you're getting that visibility. So it helps you rationalize the tool, and in the end it also helps you measure, because you can actually see what's going on.
Absolutely. And this is exactly why folks purchase BigPanda, amongst many other reasons. But from a hybrid cloud perspective, it really is that planning, the insurance through the process, and how do you measure success at the back end.
Cool. I think this would be a high note to end on in. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you very much, Ron. I appreciate it.
And if you want to hear more CTO perspectives or learn more about the BigPanda platform, visit us at bigpanda.io. See you next time.